Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, switching to my radio voice. And today I have with me Richard Look, president of Verde Brands, and Marcus Cudd, president of Searchworks. And together they will be talking about not only their companies, but also their new, I actually don't know how new it is, also their joint venture, the insurance media exchange IMX. So first of all, thank you both for coming on the show. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. And we are recording on July 9th, which is the Tuesday after the long 4th of July weekend, which this year for insurance people kind of extended into 4 days because of Friday, July 5th being a Friday. And so I think most people are back in the office today. Yesterday was a bit questionable, but I think today most of us are back to work. So hopefully you guys had a fantastic 4th of July weekend. It looks like on LinkedIn, you guys are in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, July, I'm guessing
Hot.
I was gonna say, I'm guessing it's actually beautiful, which is rare for the Midwest. But so we're up to hot.
It's 95 degrees with 95% humidity. It's
Okay.
hot.
So yeah, that is hot. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. My entire life has been 95 degrees with 95% humidity for the last month already. But it's Atlanta, Georgia. It's how we pay for no snow. Which is exactly why we live here. I actually spent 10 years of my life in the Midwest, more like 13 or 14, 10 in Iowa, 3 or 4 in Ohio. All right. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. Let's start with Verde Brands. Richard, what is Verde Brands?
So Verde Brands is an ad agency or marketing consulting firm specifically for specialty insurance providers. Most of our clients, I'll say 16 of our 18 clients are MGAs. The other 2 are insurtechs.
Okay. Perfect. That is a very specialized focus, but
Yes,
that
it
makes
is.
a ton of sense to me because
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, you have to look at us almost like a fractional CMO. So we are the ones that we step in with a lot of these specialty insurance programs or program managers where they just can't, maybe their budget is only $150,000. They just can't afford to have a senior chief marketing officer.
Mm-hmm.
They can work with us for less than it would cost for a junior person.
Perfect. That makes a ton of sense to me. And I think the old saying that I know that 50% of my marketing spend is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. I
We
think in
do.
insurance, I love that. I think in insurance, it's more than 50% because your marketing agency, your traditional marketing agency, and this happens even to the big carriers with billions of dollars to spend, your traditional marketing agency does not understand insurance, much less specialty, right? So go with somebody who speaks the language and understands the customer. Thank you for that. So Marcus, what is Searchworks?
Searchworks has been an agency that I founded back in 2007, and we've been focused on really blending creative with technology, kind of being on the cutting edge of technology, generally for smaller brands and specialty markets, insurance obviously being one of them. But we worked in other markets like CPG, smaller brands that way, higher education, healthcare. And like Verta Brands, we were matched in that we could work with uh, different brands that had smaller budgets. They didn't have mega budgets. They needed to grow. They needed to grow at a certain pace, and they needed maximum efficiency with their budget. And our capability was end to end. So we were not only the consultant and strategist on the front end, but we were the implementation all the way through the tracking and reporting, completely managed service by us.
Okay, fantastic. And when you say an agency, you mean a marketing agency?
That's correct.
Okay.
So both a marketing and technology agency.
In my world, the word agency means insurance agency, and it's even more complex because my day job, I run a recruiting agency specialized in insurance and insurtech. So in that world, agency means recruiting agency. So yes, so that's why I try to be very, very, very clear. Okay, so what is IMX, the Insurance Media Exchange? What brought, because otherwise, like you guys would somewhat be competitors. It kind of looks like. So what brought you guys together to do IMX, and what is IMX?
So IMX is the Insurance Media Exchange. Back in about 2012, we had a one of our clients that did flood insurance was focused on the fact that the email blasting to agents and brokers just wasn't effective anymore. The open rates were dropping, and our client literally said, "Don't you have anything else that you can offer?" And I said, "There is one thing," and it was this programmatic tool. And I had spoken with a number of providers at the time, and everybody wanted $200,000 and a year-long commitment. Now, as I mentioned, some of our clients may only have $150,000 budget total. So Marcus was one of the few companies, or his company SearchWorks was one of the few companies that literally put its money where its mouth was and said, "Yeah, we can see success in 3 months." And then go month to month thereafter. Because of the fact that they control their own system and their own data, it made it very cost effective for for our clients. So in that case, this particular client that we started with, there weren't any true insurance networks or media exchanges that focused on the insurance industry back then. So Marcus literally put glue and Scotch tape together and built. I'm going to put words in your mouth, Marcus. Probably like 13 or 14 different agent networks or websites, and developed a set of agents and brokers to target. And from that particular client, within 5 months, had generated 300 registrations from their website. You have to register for their product before you can get quotes. And after 6 months, they were averaging 400 registrations per month, and that lasted for 7 straight years. And based on the success we had there, we started offering that service to other clients of Vertibrands. And then in October of 2023, we launched the Insurance Media Exchange. And I'm going to let Marcus explain the concept behind the name Insurance Media Exchange and what that means in the marketplace.
Let me pause you half a second, since I don't come from the marketing world. The pain of email no longer making it to its destination or getting ignored, that I've lived through, and that is painful and has become a big issue. So I can see where this was coming from. Now, when you said programmatic tool, that my brain did not find a reference to that file. So what is a programmatic tool in the marketing world?
I'll let Marcus deal with that.
Yeah, like Rich mentioned, very early on in kind of the programmatic game, that was something that we endeavored to become, experts at. And programmatic is, the simplest way to explain it is it's literally building a program to run a campaign. So a program contains certain rules and requirements, parameters by which it will run. And it has to be managed. A programmatic campaign is not set and forget. It is something that you're constantly managing, and it's like managing a program. You write it in a way that it's supposed to run, and then you have to monitor it to make sure it actually runs that way. You're also bringing together different elements. So you have your supply side or your publishers who they want to generate ad revenue off their websites. And then you have your demand side, the advertisers who want to run ads, and they want to run those ads on the supply side. You also have the visitor, somebody who comes into the publisher site who's a target of the demand side. So the programmatic ecosystem allows all three of them to come together in a very efficient format. But it's only efficient if it's managed. And we were very early in as a smaller agency, marketing agency, very, on the small side, but willing to get in and get our hands dirty and become experts on the programmatic front, and find partners that we could work with that would be a little bit more lenient with us on budget as long as we can manage our own campaigns. So there are a lot of networks and programmatic companies out there that the reason they charge so much is because campaigns like this have to be managed. And generally, they have teams of people who manage these campaigns. And so they need to be a definitive level of spend that's high enough to make it worth their while. And by partnering with these networks with the expertise we had, we were able to self-manage and be able to build programmatic campaigns that were more budget friendly, so to speak, for smaller brands. And along the way, we had to solve lots of problems. So we had to look at click attribution. We had to build more long-term funnels because programmatic tends to be very high up, top of funnel. And you have to move people through that funnel as as your process of qualifying them. And you have to be able to track what's happening through that process all the way to the eventual conversion and be able to have attribution for that. And all of that is a managed process. It is very rare that you go into a company or a brand and find a group of marketers who can put all those pieces of the puzzle together. That's just not where brands spend their time as far as marketing goes. They talk creative, they talk strategy. They do look to agencies to be able to manage the nuts and bolts and also implement creative, depending on how small their team is or how small their budget is. And one of the things that we made hay with was our ability to partner with other agencies, other marketing agencies who did not have this expertise, needed budget-friendly deals. And so we were able to partner with agencies just like Vertibrands to be able to bring that to their particular vertical. So we developed exclusive partnerships based on vertical with different agencies. And then we had to solve other problems along the way, like data sources. And then, looking at the cookieless world that's coming up, solutions to that. And that's really where IMX came together, was the idea that we had to look at a cookieless world. We had to look at things like first-party data is really being our primary source of data, and have a transparent process for ourselves being able to accumulate that first-party data and be able to do marketing to them. Marketing has all kinds of layers to it. IMX allows us to apply all those layers and then also be able to provide essentially an entire lead process, not only from the strategy to the creative, but through to the tracking and the conversion process. Excuse me. So, marketing agencies like Vertibrands, they need really an end-to-end industry-specific product like this exchange to be able to run programmatic and reach an audience in a budget-efficient way.
Okay. Whew, okay. So basically, in summary, like the explanation to my 22-year-old little brother who's in college right now. I was gonna say my 6-year-old niece, but to my 22-year-old brother who's in college right now, starting his degree in business. Basically, manage the entire lead process from the lead creation process, or lead attraction process, from strategy to creative to tracking, improving the process so that it works and continues to work. Okay,
Correct.
perfect. Cookie-less world. So I want to take a wild guess that this is a big topic in the marketing world that is not reaching my world of insurance. So I'm assuming that basically there are legislative or technology changes that are killing the good old browser cookie.
Yeah,
Okay, so tell me about that.
so there's a couple of forces that work regarding cookieless technology. So number one is just the technology itself is older, is not seen as really efficient. And the regulations around privacy and providing more control to the consumer over how their data is used, captured and used, what have you. What this has forced the marketing technology companies to look at is how do we implement marketing in a way that doesn't rely on cookies. Let's just say it in its most basic sense. We don't want to rely on cookies anymore. So Apple has already done away with that and implemented that as part of iOS. Google keeps shifting the deadline in which they're going to go completely cookieless. I think now it's 2025.
So,
Go ahead.
how does it work in right now in the Apple ecosystem? Because I am all Apple all the way, right? I'm iPhone. We're recording on my MacBook Pro Max. I'm an iPad. Like I am an
Right.
Apple guy,
So,
and I can tell you that like the ads that I've been getting the last few weeks have not been inefficient,
yeah,
or rather, have not been ineffective in getting me to spend a lot of money with the Fourth
yeah.
of July sales. So like, however, it's working. So on the Apple side of the world, how is it working?
So Apple, if you remember, and this again, simplest sense I can give you is Apple's a hardware company. That's where they make money. They don't make money with advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Google is an advertising company. Yes, they have hardware, but really they make their money from advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So they have kind of opposing viewpoints on things like consumer privacy, implementation of tracking, all of that type of thing. It's very easy for Apple to implement removing cookies, ending tracking, or requiring opt-in for tracking via their hardware, right? So whether you have an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook or what have you, they give you a lot of controls over what happens with your data on that platform. Google, on the other hand, they're heavily reliant on being able to use their devices that they make, their hardware and their browser and whatnot, to accumulate user data that can go into their advertising platform. So their model is based on being able to track users and advertise to them. So old technology to do all that is called cookies. It's easy for Apple to dump that because that's not really how Apple makes money in the first place. And Google says, well, it's not so easy based on everything we built into our ecosystem to just dump it. So, we've got this gradual change into how we implement the same type or the same tracking of users. Obviously, they also have to do it within the confines of legal. So what regulatory environment we're having, and that's changing state by state by state. If you notice, most of the regulatory action we look at is coming from states and not coming from the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And so Google has to pay attention to any changes they make, also either complying with the state regulatory environment or saying you can't advertise in that state or can't be an advertiser on our platform in that state. So they have kind of different viewpoints of how they're able to track people or what they want, how they make money and therefore how they're going to track people. I can't get into the exact process of how Google's moving. I know they have a sandbox now where they test a lot of stuff, and a lot of people aren't real impressed with the results, which is why they keep moving the goalposts, every 6 months or so in that process. Apple, because it doesn't rely on advertising revenue, it's easier for them to just cut off tracking and not take a hit to their revenue as far as that goes.
Makes perfect sense. Right. Okay. So I sometimes I have home field advantage, home court advantage, because I'm talking to an insurtech that is doing something related to my own insurance career. Sometimes I don't have that. I feel like today I have like double not home court advantage, right? Like I'm playing an away game, and like I feel like a baseball team who I feel like the University of Hawaii football team playing whichever game they play is furthest away from Hawaii. And because basically I don't come from the specialty side and I don't come from the marketing side. Okay. So let's bring it down. Let's start here. For MGAs, for the specialty insurance world, right? Their clients are basically agents, retail agents. Do correct me if I'm wrong, right? And their suppliers are basically carriers that provide capacity, okay, or reinsurers, but mostly carriers. So, my understanding of how MGAs reach agents and brokers is that they have field salespeople, they spend money in marketing, okay. But basically, my question is, historically, like before IMX existed, did they put ads on the insurance journal kind of thing, or like how did MGAs spend their marketing money before IMX, and how is that different now with IMX?
Right. Well, we still do other things outside of IMX, but you're right. They would run ads on insurancejournal.com or Insurance Business America, Big I Markets, etc. I think the first thing that people do is they tend to put their money towards directories, so that they're at least part of the search process. Like mynewmarkets.com is a good example. But the email blasting, which was very successful, for years, is now getting a less than a 6% open rate. In some cases, 2%, depending upon who you're working with. So it just doesn't work anymore. And but email is still a great tool if you know the person you're emailing. Our clients, when they send out newsletters and content, have over a 40% open rate, to their prospects and their clients that they work with on a regular basis. But email as a new business development tool does not work.
Yes, I would agree with that. So what works in the new world?
Well, we found that what we're doing on the IMX side, and one of the reasons why we were confident enough to launch this as a joint venture back in October, is that we are generating 5 times the lead activity, the business development activity that we've ever generated in our history since 2007. So the activity is there. The traffic is created, and what we do is we use a series of ads where we might have 4 to 8 different ads that run on an agent. And by the way, we're not just focused on agents. You can also target insureds. So it's good for an agent or broker to utilize this if they want to focus on insureds, business insureds in their region. It's good for carriers. If a carrier is specifically targeting agents and brokers in a particular region. I mean, we were able to focus in on flood insurance by focusing on just the flood category. So, or I'm sorry, the flood zones and agents and brokers that were within 20 miles of a flood zone. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can do here. And it just makes it more cost effective. But the lead generation that we're creating is literally 5 times greater than anything else that's out there. And what we try to do with clients, and because it can be expensive. If you just want to go after all 50 states all at once, it's going to be very expensive. So we try to encourage people to do a test, 3 to 5 states at a manageable budget. And based on and we utilize that time, that 3 to 5 month period, to fine tune optimize the messaging and the actions on a landing page. And that landing page serves as the start of the sales funnel, as Marcus alluded to earlier. And it's from that landing page that you're able to start the conversation, and then you get your salespeople involved thereafter.
I didn't even think of that. A big piece of it is the inbound, is the landing page at catching the right flies. Okay,
yes, and you can have multiple landing pages. You can have, if you have 5 sales reps in 5 different territories, you can have 5 different campaigns with 5 different landing pages, all kind of doing the same thing.
I absolutely love that. Okay, so 5 times, 5x as many leads as anything you've seen prior.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I mean, the first client that we had was on the Inc. 5000 list for 7 straight years.
Wow. Wow. Inc. 5000, that's the fast growth, right? Fast growth.
Fastest growing company, which is, it might be easy to get on it 1 year, maybe even 2 years, but 7 years, that's compounded growth.
Yeah, no kidding. That is absolutely fantastic. All right.
As an example of that, just to dovetail off what Rich has said, we have a client we were just on the phone with earlier today. We've been in a campaign for 45 days with that client. And the activity in their get appointed system, the system they use online to get appointed, is up 580% from what it was before we ran the campaign. And sometimes when we run campaigns and we track them, we do it right within their own GA4. It's not like a third-party system that they have. All the data is contained within their system, so they can see it and parse it however they want to. We, of course, do that reporting for them, and we show them where that data is in GA4. But the interesting thing for them is sometimes even the numbers for them are eye-popping when they see what was happening before they ran the campaign. And then once we turned it on, how those numbers started to take off for them. And of course, it's incumbent on them on their end to actually track what's happening in that activity, meaning what are the submissions coming through? Are they in the wheelhouse of what they're looking for? Are they getting the right broker appointments? That type of thing. It's a dialogue. It's a back and forth. But it's all about the measurement, and then coming back to the table and say, okay, how do we do this better? What's going on your end, and optimize the process from there.
Perfect. I normally ask about implementation. I don't know if implementation is a rational question for this particular service. So if I run the marketing department for an MGA and we're not getting the results that we want, how do we start the process? What does the process look like to engage with you guys?
Well, the engagement is very simple. We literally have I'm going to say a non-compete agreement that we put in place. We also have a questionnaire, and that questionnaire, anything that's on that questionnaire is never shared. It's all confidential. And from that
non-disclosure agreement, Rich.
I'm sorry, non-disclosure agreement. Sorry. It's an open market product. Sorry about that. you'll need to scratch that. So,
I need to, okay.
so the way it works is we have a non-disclosure agreement in place with each client. We have them complete a questionnaire. That questionnaire gives us the reasons why an agent or an insured or an end user would buy from them. And from that, we put together the ad copy, and we create the ads. Once the ads are approved, then we have to resize the ads into about 10 or so different sizes. We create the landing page, and all that and we have to program the system. All that takes about 3 to 4 weeks minimum. So and also we want to fund the account so that money is available once we press go. Because if the account is empty, the media account, then the campaign just won't run. And so we're always 30 days in front of the budget. So we always bill 30 days in advance, and that way we always have money in the account to cover any of the media expenses, the nickels and dimes that have to come out of the account to pay for your ad to run on a third-party site. But so the implementation is very easy. It's a 30 to 45 day startup. And then once it starts up, you have full flexibility in terms of the budget. If you want to increase the spend in a particular state, you can. If you want to decrease the overall spend during a certain period, you can. You can push all your dollars towards one area. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have, and ultimately, our idea is that you want to convert third-party data into first-party data that you own, and the more first-party data you have, the less expensive it is to reach them with your ads when you're retargeting, and so it's a great long-term solution for any company.
All right. Normally, I ask about pricing. You have mentioned that compared to a lot of the more traditional alternatives, you are fantastically competitive. And normally, I ask about client feedback, or especially ROI. It sounds like this is a pretty new piece of the operation. What are the early clients saying?
Well, we've been actually, IMX really existed as a product name starting in October of last year, but really this is a system we've been putting together and optimizing over a course of 10 years. So
okay.
It goes back pretty far, and I think it's lasted for 10 years just because so many of our clients stay with us. I think we have a client for 8 years, and we have another client for 5 years, and they just stick with it because it continues to produce results. We do have some cyclical clients that only run at certain parts of the year and things like that. So the ROI is, of course, dependent on where they started, what their benchmark, if it's a new program or if they've been established, what have you. Also depends on if they're going in a state where they have had some success, or if they're going completely new in a state. So it does vary from time to time, but the whole point and everything we do is ROI. We know, it's particularly in the insurance industry, if they're not getting return, if they're not writing new premium and it well in excess of what they're spending on this, that's something that they're not going to continue to do. So after 10 years, we've gotten the process down to, making sure that happens.
Right. Looking at the website. Okay. IMX, Insurance Media Exchange, insuranceMediaExchange.com. Digital media for the insurance industry. Okay. Okay, take your insurance marketing to the next digital level. Hygienic data. Okay, right there you got to be. What is hygienic data?
Sure. So I will, one of the things that a problem we looked to solve very early on was the quality of data in the programmatic environment. One of the companies I started back in 2016 was a media company that worked with professional associations in order to help them monetize their data, their association data in the programmatic world. And that was successful because their data was something called hygienic, which meant it was clean, it was always updated, and generally updated by members, so that we knew it was accurate. Hygienic, the best alternative word is accurate. And that, right phone numbers, right names, right email addresses, all of that type of thing. Hygienic data is what makes campaigns work well. You got to make sure you're targeting the right kinds of people. That whole process was about us establishing our ability to make sure we're accurately targeting who we wanted to target. So working with professional associations was an example of getting really accurate data. Being able to verify data through third-party sources such as LinkedIn is another way to verify whether or not we had accurate data. The third way is by accumulating first-party data, which is data where I can't necessarily go and look at an individual record of a person, but I can tell by the engagement of that individual ID that they are in fact the right kind of target for what we've got in our bucket, so to speak, like an insurance agent or broker. If they're repeatedly clicking on different content that we're providing them in the insurance industry, they're pretty much qualifying themselves as being an agent and broker. And first party data is what, our bread and butter is for a lot of what we do now. And that's hygienic.
Fantastic. First party data, and you specifically mentioned first party and zero party.
Sure.
What is zero party data? So first party data makes sense, but what is zero party?
So there's a process on the front end where you're accumulating data via your partnerships with customers, your customer data itself. First party data is, generally speaking, data that you've accumulated through various means. Zero party is, like a lot like transactional data, that type of stuff. So again, you already have a relationship with the customer, but it might not necessarily be a marketing relationship with that customer. We refer to first party data because, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think zero party is inclusive of is part of first party data. So, I don't really, you have people who kind of look at them a little bit differently, but, from our standpoint, they're kind of the same.
Perfect. Programmatic reach. We talked about programmatic. Innovative AI tech. I swear, I'm gonna start a drinking game for when I'm recording the podcast for every mention of AI, because it comes up every episode nowadays. Okay. So how are you guys? And yes, the final client doesn't care what technology you're using, only cares about results. But how are you guys using AI for all
Sure.
of this?
For campaign optimization, pure and simple. I think now just about every programmatic platform is using that. When we're able to track conversions, again, even though we're working with an MGA that has a broker portal, if we aren't able to get in there at our tracking scripts and actually be able to track through to the end conversion, it's much harder for our AI to understand which subsets of our brokers are actually converting and therefore optimize to pull more of them in. It can optimize, the AI can easily optimize via click-to rate and landing page data and things like that. But we, love to be able to optimize on conversions. So, essentially, it would be hard to say that we're doing something really different from other programmatic platforms on the AI side. But I think having AI as part of what you're doing programmatically is kind of like minimum now. That you kind of have to have it to be in the game.
Perfect. Perfect. Your data extended, re-engage in active prospects with new opportunities using multi-channel strategies to activate new business. Makes sense to me. Sales sequencing, whether you can quote to bind or not, our funnels work. Perfect. So just better funneling. The platform is a managed service to maximize efficiency. We talked a good amount about that, about how important the managing piece is and how you guys do it. You provide end-to-end tracking, and you have a small team, no problem, which we specialize in helping small teams execute for extensive reach to their target prospect. I'm guessing small marketing teams are very common in the MGA space. So yes, this makes perfect sense to me why this would be a good match.
They're even smaller on the InsurTech side. There's usually one person who we're working with, and oftentimes it's a president of the company, and we can make them very, very efficient. But it's also carries over to the carrier side, the insurance companies that that are looking to target agents and brokers, or looking to build a business through an MGA, or not just an MGA, program managers in general. They can capitalize on this, and really they can corner a particular market in a specialty or a line of business, and that has not yet, nobody's taken full advantage of that yet, and that's something that in the future I fully expect insurance companies to through the use of URL retargeting to really corner the industry.
Okay, so I understood like a third of that. So tell me more about that. How do I corner the market on specialty insurance?
If you have a great product, let's say cyber, you have a great cyber liability product. Well, everybody has a cyber liability product, and everybody claims that everybody says, hey, our rates are going up 40%, and we're renewing 95% of the book. So we must be the best in the business. Well, we talk to everybody in the business, and everybody's telling us the same thing.
That's just the market, yeah.
So from a URL retargeting standpoint, we can literally make it so that anybody who has a cyber liability product that they feature, we can target that page, so that when an insured or when a broker visits a page on, say, the Chubb website that's specific to cyber liability, that they can start seeing our client's ad about cyber liability. And so no matter what carrier or what MGA or what provider they visit, they're going to start seeing just our client's cyber liability product till they're a bit blue in the face.
Perfect.
The other thing there is that because we're talking multiple ads, as I said earlier, 4 to 8 ads, it could be even more. The prospects or the target audience is not just seeing the same ad over and over and over again, like you would with print advertising. They are seeing different messages, and from those messages, we can identify which messages are actually getting the best results, and then we can drop the poor working messages. And so it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing.
That's
which works real well.
Fantastic. All right. And then you have some case studies on the website. So for the listener, if you listen this far, you're interested in this stuff. So go to insurancemediaexchange.com. Go down to the case studies. Those do look interesting. Is there usually my last question is usually, are there first, I'm going to give you an idea of when this will go live. This will likely go out mid-August. So let's call it August 13th or so. Richard Look and Marcus Cudd. Okay. So now that you know when it'll go live, are there any new features in the pipeline that you are excited about and that you can already talk about?
What date did you say? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Mid-August, August 13th.
Yeah. You know, I from my perspective, I think we had enough time before we actually launched it as a product to really figure out what we needed to make sure we had in it. You know, the one thing Rich and I always talk about is more data, you know, and that's something we're doing all the time. So it's not like something where we say, you know, we have a, you know, we're going to have new data in August because, you know, through our efforts, you know, we're constantly refreshing our first party data in our system and leveraging that because you know, it's something we feel like we have to do to get performance. So, but as far as like technical features or bells and whistles, you know, we don't really have anything slated for August. I think, you know, we have some, you know, you mentioned AI before. There's some things we want to do on the supply side. So right now, the part of the ecosystem that we don't, you know, have as much as control as we would like is the supply side of the programmatic environment, which is where the publishers live. We want to build more publisher-specific relationships, including, you know, having some editorial control over the type of content where we show advertising, and be able to also feature our clients within that editorial control. So that's something that's probably not going to roll out in 2024, but would be kind of on the agenda for a 2025 major update.
Fantastic.
But I would add to that. Just a few months back, we added a marketing automation component to our IMX platform that's available to clients. So it's something that we offer now. It just hasn't been promoted a lot. But what that does is it makes it so that we can, when somebody visits the landing page or our client's landing page, that we can execute a marketing automation email campaign to that person. Now, I said earlier that, you know, email is not a good business development tool, but these are people who have visited your landing page, so now they know who you are, and when they get an email 2 days later or a week later, and the email can be very simple. It doesn't have to be a 1,000-word email. It can just be, you know, 100 words or less, and just kind of talk in terms of what you do, and the whole idea is to engage that person. Anyway, that's just another aspect to go to tie in with the retargeting that we're doing, just to as another touch point.
And as Rich
Fantastic.
said, the important piece of having that is it's an augmentation to an existing CRM that a client might already have. Meaning that, you know, the data that we're pulling in, we have filtering processes we can run and scoring processes that we can run before moving data to their CRM from our system, which means their sales team can be focused on very specific contacts. And, you know, again, it's not the shotgun approach from that perspective.
Perfect. Richard and Marcus, thank you so much for your time today. When this goes live, I will tag both of you and the company on LinkedIn. It has been educational. It has been super, super, super interesting to me. I am very happy to hear that marketing technology at this level is being used in our industry, and not just in the Progressive Geico very, very standard space, but in the specialty insurance space. I had no idea. I would have assumed that a lot of MGAs are knocking on doors and sending printouts,
Some
sending
are.
snail mail. It's good to hear that at least some of them have joined the 21st century digital marketing revolution. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time today. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for having us.